When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Professional mountain biker Adam Craig says it's one of the top 3 places in the universe he's ridden. Where is this magical mountain biking nirvana? It's none other than Brevard, North Carolina, home to Pisgah National Forest and DuPont Recreational Forest. The area boasts over 300 miles of peerless single track, not to mention hundreds of miles of gravel roads, creating a near endless array of routes, terrains, and challenges to explore. 4 vibrant bike shops will get you sorted, whether you need gear, service, or a top-notch rental. Top it off with an array of craft breweries, cafes, and gathering spots that have earned Brevard the title as one of the best small towns in America in 2021. It all adds up to a premier mountain biking destination you'll want to experience for yourself. Find out more at explorebrevard.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Single Tracks Podcast. My name is Jeff, and today my guest is Rab Wardell. Rab is a mountain bike athlete and coach living in Glasgow, Scotland, and he recently launched a new video series with Wahoo Fitness called Old Enough to Know Better. Thanks for joining us again, Rab.
My pleasure. It's great to be back.
Yeah, well, the last time we spoke, I was looking, and it was almost exactly a year ago. I think it was last January that we spoke. So how have you been? How was 2021 for you?
It's been a good year. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I've been getting to ride my bike a lot. I've been able to travel a little bit this year, which was different. But no, I've just really been enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Well, your video series, Old Enough to Know Better, which again is sponsored by Wahoo Fitness, explores the idea of dream chasing. And your story sort of begins back in 2006, so 15 years ago. Tell us what happened then.
Yeah, that's quite, I guess that's one of the major benchmarks in this film is 2006. I competed in an event called the Commonwealth Games, which is the Commonwealth is like, I guess it's what was the British Empire. So it's a major event. It's like a mini Olympics, if you like. Mm-hmm. And I competed for Scotland and Australia in that. And, I left school in 2003. And I really made it my dream was to be able to compete in this Commonwealth Games in Melbourne in 2006. So, it was a huge part of what I did for as a young adult, and it was a great experience, but it was also a disappointment. And it was after that point, it was actually it's kind of the start of my story, and it's also it was the end at the time. And it was when at the end of that season, I kind of gave up on the dream of becoming a professional bike rider. It just wasn't sustainable for me to do that. But being blunt, just purely, I couldn't afford it, and I couldn't see a career path, certainly as a Scottish mountain biker at that time. So, it's maybe a bit of a dull start to the series, but it's just my story. But, I've still been riding my bike. I've still, that's what got me coaching at that time. Mm-hmm. I was able to begin coaching for Scottish cycling at that time as a development coach. And, I've continued to ride and compete and, set goals ever since then. Yeah.
Well, I mean, part of what I've read and heard about kind of your thinking at that time was, I mean, you essentially described it as like retiring in your early 20s. I mean, you're super young, really, for a lot of people, that's when they're just starting their career. So, but like, what were the emotions you were kind of feeling around that? I mean, to be like, I'm sure you had goals and you're like, this is my career. I'm going to be a professional athlete. And then you had to like make that realization that like, I got to maybe figure out something else.
Yeah, really, it was a dream to become that, to chase that pro lifestyle and to compete. And I still look back on it and I think I was riding really well. It just unfortunately wasn't a viable career path at that time.
Yeah.
for me. So I felt like going to the Commonwealth Games as an event, I almost wanted that to be a springboard. I was imagining that was going to be a springboard to a greater career. It was going to open up doors and create opportunities. And unfortunately, the timing of that it just wasn't the case. It was just a case that there were the opportunities I'd actually had in the lead up to going to that event were probably some of the best ones that I'd had in terms of support and coaching. When I came back from that event, I lost my coach. I lost my funding, my national team funding, and also at that time it was a shame. It was quite tough to take, but I mean the British cycling track program was really strong then. Some of the riders that were the same age as me that were competing there, Geraint Thomas and Mark Cavendish are two riders that was the same age as me but competing on the track and on the road. In the mountain bike race, after I punctured, I actually ended up racing with Chris Froome, who probably all know has gone on to win 4 Tour de France's. And, those guys really, they were able to make the most of the opportunities. And to be fair, they had better results than I did at that time. And just for me, it was a few doors closed, and it just, my motivation really dropped. Yeah, it was just really hard to take, to be honest. Yeah. Looking back on it, it was a big challenge. And I think it's not an unusual story. It's like not everybody is able to go on and live the dream and make it as a professional. I think that Geraint Thomas, Chris Froome, Mark Cavendish, they're really the outliers, and they're deserved champions. My story is probably more, there's probably another, I don't know how many people have got a similar story to me. I guess I just feel quite lucky that I get to tell it.
Yeah, and like you said, you pivoted to coaching and did that for a number of years, and now you're back to racing, which is just what we're talking about here. Well, in the film, you say that there are no shortcuts to experience and that you made a number of mistakes along the way in your career as a coach, I imagine, and also as an athlete. So I'd love to hear, what are some of your biggest mistakes that stand out as being like ones where you maybe learned a lot, or maybe they're just really big mistakes that you don't want to repeat again?
I think the one biggest mistake that I feel like I've learned from is getting too hooked and I guess too hung up on a result, and rather than thinking about the process and how I think it gets talked about a lot, and it's you have to trust the process, and it's all about executing a process. If you consider I think it's I guess dreaming about or kind of visualizing the result is a great thing to do in terms of to really excite you and to motivate you as like a long-term project. Actually dreaming about a particular result is a great thing to do. But if you lose sight of what the process is and what it is that you actually need to do on a daily basis that will help you achieve that goal, that can be to your detriment. I think that's something that I previously used to do, is dream too much about a particular result and not get the process right, not sleep well enough, not have a good enough routine, I think it's what I've realized over the years is I really, really thrive when I've got routine and I've got good people around me. If I've got basically stick to a really similar routine, it doesn't have to be super strict, but it just needs to be consistent. And I value consistency over time as well, rather than being hot and cold, like being, maybe doing like a really big block of training for 2 or 3 weeks and always striving for more and pushing harder. It's much better for me to almost just do enough, but do it consistently for 3, 6, 9 months. Yeah. And, almost factor in that there's going to be days which aren't going to be great. So planning in these rest days, planning in some downtime, planning in, adaptation weeks and recovery weeks, and making a plan that I have faith in, something that I look at it and I go, right, this is a good game plan. This is going to really work, and then try and execute it. And another thing that I think I used to do, and I still am guilty of, I think, is not giving myself credit for the things that I do achieve. It's like, for example, a good example would be if I were doing a race in Scotland, for example, where I felt I had a good chance of winning or being really competitive. If I won that race, I almost wouldn't, I would almost think, well, yeah, you kind of should have won that race, and never actually give myself the credit of being like, right, well, you've done a great job there. You've gone out and you've achieved what you set out to do. Like, let that sink in for a period of time before thinking about, right, what's next, or even discrediting that achievement, and being, I'm one of the best there. I should have won. If I didn't win, it would be a failure, It's and I think that's quite common. One thing I learned was, like I say, I stopped racing at quite a young age, and I have raced over those years. I've still done a lot of racing.
Yeah.
But what I did learn is winning races isn't easy. Even the local race in somewhere in Scotland or in Glasgow, like there's always going to be somebody there that wants to win and is taking it seriously, and and also if you've got the target on your back, people want to take you down. So that's sport. It's great to see that. But so if I do win races or if I do have good results, I like to take it from actually enjoy it. Don't be thinking about what's next too soon. Just go. Actually savor it for a minute and enjoy that. And I think finally the other thing that I do is that I think finding my level is a good thing. Actually trying to be competitive trying to win races that I'm capable of winning, or trying to get good results in races that I can perform in. Previously, I would always want to ride the biggest race I could do.
Mm-hmm.
So I would always want to be turning up on the start line of a World Cup, like a horse category stage race like Cape Epic. I would always want to be at that biggest race,
mm-hmm.
whereas really I'd be a real small fish in a big pond in those races.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the feeling of being on the world stage and in the big events. But it's quite hard to survive in those kind of races, I think, as well. It can be quite difficult. So I think it's about, for me, I've learned to, almost like pick my level. I don't feel like I'm ever, like a pot hunter. I don't feel like I'm turning up to small races just so I can win. I think I want to be at that.
Yeah.
I want to ride races that challenge me, that I've got a really strong field, and try and do my best. Still get excited to race. And I think the goal for the series and for this year, which was riding the British National Championships, was a great fit for me. It was something I could compete at, and but it was it was still big enough to get me excited.
Yeah. Well, I love this idea of tying like mistakes to building experience and telling ourselves there are no shortcuts, right? Like we're going to make mistakes, and that's part of the process, like you said. And that seems to be, I imagine you're someone who doesn't have a lot of regrets either, because you look back at those mistakes and you say, well, I learned something from that. I had to make that mistake because that's part of my experience. Are you able to take that to like the next level and really like seek out experiences where you are going to make a mistake? Like, are you really like that zen about it where you can just be like, yes, another mistake. I've learned something else. like, can you take it, and then could you take it too far and really like, it seems like you're trying to find that balance, right? You're trying to show up at the right races and do the right things. So yeah, kind of how do you view that?
I certainly don't think I set out trying to make mistakes.
Right. Still try to avoid them.
Yeah, I think so. It's I definitely like to take myself out of my comfort zone. It's another thing that I've realized is I like trying to progress. I always like to try and move forward, and even if it's only one step at a time, it's like I want to, I want to be the best that I can be, and I want to be better than I was yesterday. Whether that's a lifestyle thing, whether that's whether it's sport, whether it's coaching, I like to, the feeling of progression is great, and it is hard when you plateau as well to try and continue to seek that, and you also have to just accept that there are days that you're going to, or there are even periods of time where you're going to go backwards and you're going to be worse,
Yeah.
It's like reversibility is definitely real, especially when it comes to sport and training and physical fitness,
mm-hmm.
and aging, it's a fact of life that you might go backwards. So for me, it's a lot of the time, it's about setting up that process goal and trying to execute as well as I can. And that's where you can, I think the enjoyment and the joy comes through the journey.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily come through the result, and it doesn't necessarily come through always getting better. And it's quite interesting seeing how these films have been received, because there's a lot of people like 36, you're not old, you know. There's other people saying, you know, it's
Right.
like I'm 54 and I'm still right, you know, and it's you know, I know that I'm not particularly old, but
Mm-hmm.
as you do age, it's a fact of life that you are going to, at some point, you're going to be over the top of the improvement curve.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to do when that happens, if I'm not going to be physically improving, is focusing on the things that I can improve. Instead of just giving up and saying, oh, well, that's it, I may as well give up. It's like, well, actually, you know, I can optimize maybe I can optimize my equipment. I can optimize my nutrition could be better. Again, it's things like sleep and routine and structure. Those are the things that I can improve and actually still begin to get better technically. You know, technically I can, you know, get better and learn to progress and learn new skills still. Or you can always go down little, you know, you can actually totally change tact and go to a different kind of event. You know, it's maybe I can't race cross country, you know, Olympic distance cross country as well as I once could, but maybe I can I can do an ultra marathon, or I can do, you know, there's going to be things that like you say, the experience is going to lend itself to, and having a wise head, is actually going to be a real advantage. You know, there's still riders. There are lots of riders out there who are older than me competing at a higher level. So it's just about, you know, I take inspiration from those people as well. So, but yeah, I think I've rambled. Answering your question, am I that zen that you know, almost revel in making mistakes? I guess if it was a totally new experience, if it was something I didn't know, you know, had no idea on what I was doing, and I felt like I'd really learned a lesson from it, and I was going to take, you know, that like a life lesson almost, I guess I would feel a little satisfied by that.
Right.
And I think I could, you know, I could definitely think I could, or I would do my best to look for the positives in that,
Yeah.
and enjoy it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know you're still human. You're not, you know, someone who enjoys making mistakes or, you know, tries to make them. So yeah, makes sense.
I am very human. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things I was thinking even more about that statement about, you know, there's no shortcuts to experience. And, you know, I agree with that on a lot of levels, but then I also think about other endeavors, you know, like professional careers and things, and like, how do we learn things? You know, if you're, say, a scientist, like, you're going to learn a number of things through experience, but you're also going to, you know, read books, and you're going to hear from experts in the field and things like that. So as an athlete, like, what are the ways that you can learn or maybe accelerate kind of your learning and your performance beyond just the things that you have personally experienced?
Yeah, research is definitely high up there, and kind of learn. You know, it's how do you learn? What are the stages of learning, and how do you go about doing that? And you know, there's learning through doing. There's, you know, that's that. Like you generate your own experience by just doing things and reflecting and learning and have that feedback loop. Mm-hmm. Of course, you can work with, you know, you've got peer-to-peer learning where you can ride with other people. And I think a lot of people talk about that when you ride with another person who's more experienced than you, and you just soak up all their experience like a sponge. You ask questions, you just watch, and you take that on. Of course, there's coaching. Mm-hmm. So actually actively seeking out an expert in the field and trying to listen to them and you know, learn from them, and actually ask them to help you. Mm-hmm. That's certainly another way. And I think coaching, my role as a coach, I believe that I can help others learn from all the mistakes that I've made. Right. Not necessarily all the mistakes I've made, but all of the successes that I've had as well. So I can share that. And I think what's one thing that I do think helps me is that, and certainly as a coach, is that athletes that I work with, they trust me because they show, they can see that I've experienced a number of things. They see that I've been around for a while. I've competed to a level. And I think that's one thing it's really important when it comes to coaching, is that the person who is being coached by you needs to have faith in you and needs to trust you.
Right.
Because a lot of the things that you get told to do, for example, you come to a coach and you say, I want to be faster. And they say, right, you've got to slow down. It's so counterproductive, It's like, or somebody comes to you and you say, I want to have great race results next year. I want to do cross-country mountain biking. And I go, well, what we've got to do now is you've got to learn how to pace your training so you don't go too fast. So you can, because it's so far removed to, I guess it's really far removed to what the exercise industry sells to people is like fitness. The fitness industry is all, no pain, no gain, high intensity interval training, CrossFit, all these fantastic exercises, and the fact that they're really enjoyable to do, they will get you results quickly.
Yeah.
But again, it's a long-term plan. There's no Olympian trains like that. There's no professional sports person trains like that. They're much more turning up every day, going through the motions, and just ticking boxes. So it's hard if you do. There's lots of different ways to do things, for sure, but a long-term sustainable plan needs to be considered and quite measured, rather than if it was just as simple as working hard, it would be very simple. It was like,
right.
I think I reflected it a lot. Like when I was at that young age, I came out into the junior category in 2003. And then I'd 2004, 2005, I went straight into the elite category. There was no under 23 category at that time in mountain biking. So straight in the deep end, riding with these guys, and the races were 2 hours plus long. And my big inspiration I used to look at was on the road was Lance Armstrong, and he's given it. I work the hardest, I train the hardest. I'll do what others don't, and we now know the truth. And
right.
But if that's your role model, and you're going off, I just need to work harder. I just need to do, instead of doing 5 hours, I need to do 6 hours. I need to do 7 hours. And you got these numbers banded around, and it's especially if you have the mindset that you want to work, you're willing to work hard. It can really, really, it can really backfire as well. If you're, I also think back to when I was training then, and I had a heart rate strap, and that was about it. I had a speedometer, and I would want to go out and try and average certain speeds, but the roads in Scotland aren't fast. They're the weather's hard. It's windy. The roads are pretty rough and heavy and kind of slow going. So if you're going out chasing averages, it can be a really dangerous game. So I was just really guilty of always overcooking it. I think that was I didn't. It's a cliche, but I should have trained smarter if I was able to have trained smarter. And
right.
I also think coaching now is so much easier because you get so much data and information from a rider that can back up what you're saying. And you can say, well, you actually, if you want to ride better, you need to back it off a little bit because this isn't sustainable. We're not getting the adaptation that you want to get. You might get fit really fast, but we're wanting to be fit in 6 months' time. So how do we build steadily?
Yeah. So as a coach, it's like you're getting feedback as well from the data. I mean, you're learning just as they are. Like you kind of know what the result's going to be, but you say, hey, do this with your training, and then you see, yep, that worked, and so that for the next athlete or for yourself. And I'm reminded too. It's like every athlete, if you didn't have the benefit of like books and hearing from coaches and, athletes who came before you, you'd just be there would be a limit to how good you could be, right? Like you can't possibly learn everything that you need to learn, in a lifetime. And so, and this brings it all back to like the idea of FKTs, which, is something we talked about in our last conversation and we'll talk about today as well. But like, that's one of those things that's relatively new to cycling. I mean, if you want to see like are today's athletes better than, a generation ago? It's kind of hard to say that, right? Because the courses are different. The equipment is different. There's a lot of those differences. Like even the Tour de France, it's a different route every year. So how can you say this athlete's faster than that athlete? But with an FKT, it's a fixed course. And, that's something that hopefully we'll see over time as times just get faster and faster as athletes kind of build on the knowledge of the people before them.
Yeah, I think there's the knowledge. I think there's also the belief, It's, if somebody has set a benchmark and raised a bar, you go, well, if they can do that, then that means it's possible, It's like when if you see things like extreme sports where you see world's first landed, where people, there's things happening now that are, if you go back 20 years ago, people would say it's impossible,
right?
And then it's just every year, people, just the bar just gets risen, and everyone seems to be leveling up.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that information is so free, and you can watch some riders doing these amazing stunts online on social media. You can see on Strava or other fitness apps how fast people are riding certain climbs or certain routes, and not only can you see, you can see it in real detail. You can see how hard and how fast they were going at the start, and if they increase their pace, you can see how you can learn a lot from it.
Mm-hmm.
And in quite a lot of detail. There's a lot of information out there, and I think again it just means that people dare to dream and believe what they can do. So, when we talked about last year when Gary McDonald set his time of 9 hours and 28 minutes for the West Highland Way. When I started that project, my goal was to get under 10 hours, and then he's way under that, and that just made me think, well, man, maybe I can go under 9 hours. It's like, what can I do? And I didn't have the best ride in my West Highland Way ride, and when I was setting out on that day, I had like 8:45 or maybe even faster in mind as the time that I could do if I had good conditions and a clean ride.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm thinking that, if I ride that route again, I expect I will.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do it totally unsupported. I don't want to have any mechanical or hydration support. I want to do it totally unsupported, and I want to go fast, It's, the record has, it fell twice this year, which was really cool to see.
Yeah. Wow.
And what was incredible to see was, that Connor Swift, who's a British road racer, he set the new FKT for the West Highland Way around about 2 weeks after finishing the Tour de France.
Oh, wow.
He messaged me he sent me, I speak to him fairly regularly, and he messaged me on the rest day at the Tour de France asking me about the hiker bike on Loch Lomond. And I was just like, what a moment. This is fantastic. This guy's at the Tour de France and he's thinking about, his hiker bike around Loch Lomond, which was, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But no, it was really exciting to see Connor lay down his marker, because he had bad conditions, and he went 8.5 hours almost, which is, the guy's super strong, and he can ride a mountain bike as well, which is cool.
Yeah, that's cool. So, right. Yeah. We can learn from each other, but it also sounds like we can be motivated by each other. And it's just this cycle where everybody's getting faster and achieving more.
Yeah. Connor's been pretty open that he wouldn't have mountain biked the West Highland Way had we not made the film in 2020. He watched it, and that got him excited to go and do that. And he's a fantastic bike rider. There's no doubt about it. And it's just exciting that he was inspired by what we did. And everyone's, from Gary McDonald, Keith Forsyth, we've all played a part in raising that bar and leveling up these challenges. And that's just the beauty of sport and competition. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break real quick, but when we come back, we're going to talk about risk-taking, dedication, and competing against much younger athletes. Stay tuned. Are you enjoying the Single Tracks podcast? Well, we could use your support. The small but dedicated Single Tracks team works hard to share the mountain bike information that inspires epic adventures through this podcast, our worldwide database of trail maps and photos, and daily news and reviews on the website. So consider becoming a monthly, annual, or lifetime pro supporter and enjoy ad-free browsing on the website, free SingleTrack stickers in the mail, and discounts on merch for as little as $3 per month. Go to singletracks.com/support to sign up and to find out other ways you can help support our mission. That's singletracks.com/support. Thank you and happy trails. And we're back. One of the big themes from the series is the idea of taking risks. And for mountain bikers, I think a lot of us, we tend to focus on things like jumping or riding really technical trails. But it seems like one of the big risks for professional athletes like yourself is putting everything else aside and pursuing an athletic goal, because there isn't really a guaranteed payoff, right? Is that sort of the risk you're talking about? Like focusing and dedicating yourself to something that really is unknown. I mean, you don't know if you're going to have a payoff.
Yeah, I think the risk often is, you set yourself this goal, and we kind of talked about it earlier when it came to racing, like smaller races. You maybe set a goal that if it's a realistic expectation that you can do it, it can be, you've got two options. You either achieve the goal and you maybe don't feel that satisfied by it because it's something that you set a goal that you kind of knew was in reach, or you fail, and then that's a whole other negative feeling, if you like. It's that failure never feels good, especially if you come up really short. It can be really disheartening. It can really knock your confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I think that can be a real. It can be quite a dangerous, dangerous game, or like you're taking those risks because there's a bit of fear that if you do achieve the goal that you set, what if it doesn't kind of give you the joy that you thought it might do? Maybe you just feel like, what I find, what I really find is when I have I set a goal, once I actually surpass it, or maybe I achieve it, or I fail, or maybe I have a great time. But once that goal's out of the way, I really get a post-event or like a post-season low. Dealing with that time where it's, I guess where you're a little bit aimless for a little while. If you're working towards something for such a long time, if that's 3, 6, 9 months, or even longer. If you think about Olympians who have these 4-year cycles where they're working towards this major event, and once that you cross that line and the event's done, and then there's nothing, it can be, for me, I find that really challenging. It's I'm always wanting to try and almost set another goal, or try and manage through that. But I've gotten to a point where I know it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm almost expecting that feeling. So I still feel it, but it doesn't scare me as much as it once did. And I think that was, we can go way back to the first episode in the Commonwealth Games, where I said it was a fantastic experience to do that. But when I came home from there, I was like, wow, there's nothing, what really excites me to do next. And you maybe hear, at the end of the West Highland Way film, I say that same thing. I'm like, what's next? It's like, it's always striving for something else. So when I was 21, I didn't know what was happening. I'd been warned that there could be like a post-games depression or a post-games low that I would feel, but it doesn't quite prepare you for it. It's, and a lot of the time you don't necessarily know that you've been going through it or you've experienced it until you're on the recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been through the low and you're kind of climbing your way out of it, and you go, oh, now I can see that's why I felt so bad, or I felt so low. So
yeah,
I think it is, I guess I thrive during the journey, and again, enjoying the process, taking those boxes. I would say I've changed, but maybe I've just realized that I much prefer the training than the actual competition or the event a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Both of the times I can think of, the West Highland Way, I was really stressed out going into it. I guess the project this year with the National Cross Country Champs, I was a little bit more relaxed, but I was surrounded by friends, and it was quite good fun. It was something that I was able to really get stuck into. But I think that is, for me, that's part of the risk, And I've had lots of highs and lows over the years. But like I say, I don't think I would I wouldn't change much. Like you say, it's what's made me the person that I am today.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if I think about sort of myself, and I'm honest, there's been times when I've never been a racer myself. I guess I've been in a couple of races, never seriously, but I found in myself saying things like, basically making excuses, saying like, oh, well, he's fast because like that's all he does. He's a professional racer. I could do that too, but I've got like other stuff that I need to do, or I have a job, or I have these things. And as I got older, I realized like, no, that's the whole point. I mean, this person dedicated themselves to doing that, right? Like, and I was too scared to do that, or I, decided it's just not worth the effort or the risk or whatever it is to pursue that goal. Is that kind of your experience? I mean, was that for you something where you were like, I really have to dedicate myself and focus on this and kind of push everything else aside to really, if I really want to make this happen?
Yeah. What I find most interesting about that what you've just said there actually is actually the way that you downplayed your own experience in competing. And I think, I think we're all really guilty of that. We'll always downplay it, and some people, because some people will say to me, "Oh, you're a pro, or you've been a pro," or and I go, "Well, no, I'm not really," and it's like you kind of downplay, or even if somebody says, "Oh, you're really good," or whatever, I go, well, I'm not that good, it's like, well, because there's always somebody better,
Right. Yeah.
I'll always see there's guys the same age as me that have achieved so much more and I've done so much. And that's, I guess I'm kind of changing the question here, but it's interesting the way that we downplay our own, or it's really common to downplay your own achievements, and your own, it's things that you really want to do a lot of the time. It's like you really want to put yourself out there and you want to do the race. So I guess it is really about trying to, not compare yourself to others and trying to take the joy out of the process and the journey, because that for me is a big part of it all. It's something that I really preach to other people. If I'm working with other people or coaching other riders, because there's always going to be somebody better. And if you are good enough that you'll win the biggest events, that's fantastic. But that's not what sports is about, and that's not what life's about. I've managed to go off on such a tangent there that I've forgotten the question you asked.
No, that answers it. But yeah, I mean, the sort of my follow on though is like to pursue these goals, this goal of racing and pursuing your dream, really, right? Which is to compete and to be in that process sort of constantly. Like, are there normal sort of everyday things that you've had to kind of cut out of your life to focus on racing? Like, if you look at your peers, people who are your age that are not professional athletes, are there things that you're like, oh man, like I'm missing out on that? Or does it feel like you're not sacrificing a lot? Like, are you content to just chase your dream and feel like that's what you're meant to do?
I don't necessarily even feel like I'm chasing a dream all the time. It's just what I really enjoy doing. It's what motivates me. I feel like when I was younger, I probably felt like I was sacrificing more, or sometimes wouldn't feel, or almost felt like I wished I did sacrifice more. It is something like that. And to be honest, I think the thing that I am most grateful for now is that I'm surrounded by people who have similar goals and ambitions and lifestyle that I do. So I don't feel like I'm sacrificing. I don't feel like I'm the weirdo, It's like, it seems a lot more normal now to want to ride my bike every day, to want to, train in the gym, to want to eat well. And, I eat good food, I don't eat, I enjoy my food. I enjoy eating, sometimes I'm eating fast food, but I'm always consider about what I eat and what I drink. I still enjoy drinking beer, but I drink a lot more frequently. I drink alcohol-free beer because it's getting a lot better. So yeah. I do try and cut out alcohol, but I don't actually feel like that's a sacrifice anymore. I'm certainly at that age where I don't want a hangover.
Yeah.
It's But I enjoy the social sides of it. I enjoy the social sides of riding a bike, and so I guess outside of riding a bike, I would say my hobbies are probably eating and drinking. It's like it's going for breakfast, it's coffees, it's the social side more than as much as the experience of kind of consuming the food, I guess. But
it's a simple life, it sounds like, and you've kind of eliminated some of those temptations or those things that like make you feel bad about the choices that you're making, right? Like you're surrounded by other athletes, people who have similar goals. And so, I think a lot of us, because if we're surrounded by people who we're trying to, keep up with the Joneses, that's a phrase we use in the US, but like, looking around at what your neighbors are doing and feeling bad because you're not doing what they are, that's not helpful. And so, yeah, it sounds like what you're suggesting is surround yourself with others who are like-minded and who are pursuing sort of similar goals.
Yeah, I think I'm particularly fortunate that I've kind of got to this point now, and it's. I also think that I would like to think that even if I was, kind of living completely alone, I would be doing these things that I enjoyed doing. If I was completely isolated, I would still be, I wouldn't be looking to chase these things out. It's easy enough for me to now look back, and it's been over 20 years that I've been, wanting to ride my bike pretty consistently. I wanted to, enjoying being fit. I really love being fit and being able to go, almost turn my hand to whatever I want to do that day, any day. Like if it's I want to climb a mountain, if I want to go ride crazy fast, if I want to go do jumps, if I want to go, I really enjoy just having, I guess, being able to kind of make that choice and go and do it. So I don't see anything changing. It's like I'm 20 odd years deep into this. Mm-hmm. I don't see anything changing in 20 years time. I think it's going to be, my days are going to be pretty much based about, I'm going to ride my bike at some point every day.
How did you decide that you wanted to win the British National Cross Country Championship at age 36? I mean, had this been a goal for you at any other point, or is this something that kind of came up recently that you were like, yeah, that's the goal?
Yeah, I think maybe saying that I wanted to win it isn't quite true. I would certainly dream of winning it. I wouldn't say I had any expectation
want and
of
dream.
Being able to win.
That's an interesting distinction.
Yeah, it's I love racing. I really enjoy it, and it's I really wanted to go to the British Championships to see how I would perform. Where would I measure up against these riders? Because and a lot of it comes down to which riders turn up on the day, how what kind of shape they're in, how good a season they're having. It's so I wanted to be there, and I really just wanted to get there, execute the best race I could. Then I would feel satisfied with the result, hopefully. So even if I came last, I would want to be there, and hopefully I had executed everything as well as possible. And it's it's a high enough level race that it excites me. I'm racing against fantastic riders. It's also a stepping stone. It carries UCI points. So if had I done really well, I could go on to compete at a bigger race at a World Cup or something like that. And that was kind of what excited me. That was it was more, it wasn't so much that I wanted to go there to win. I wanted to go there to see how can I do.
Yeah.
And it's, I've never won I never won a British title. I've got one British medal to my name. I won it in 2003 as a junior. I got the bronze medal. And I guess the year that I probably could have had the best chance of getting a medal again would have been 2007, and I retired in 2006. So it was like, you step up into a new category. So I was competing against a few older riders in the under 23 national championships. So it's I like racing. I think that's it. I like to race. I like to race when I'm feeling good, and I feel like I've prepared for it. If I'm racing and I'm going through the motions, I can do that for a little while. If I'm not in good shape, I can do that for a bit. But I would say it's not. I don't get as much out of it as I would like to be if I'm turning up and I feel prepared and ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what did you learn? What was the takeaway racing against those younger athletes in the Commonwealth, or excuse me, the National Cross Country Championship?
I don't want to give too much away because some people might not have seen it, but what I took from it is I'm still getting better. I am 95% confident that I am still getting better, both physically and technically. So I think there's still more. I think I've still got more to give. I think I can still I can still get the best results ever. I'm still setting personal best. I think that was one of the things that really inspired this project, was that I was setting personal best power numbers, and my watts per kilogram were higher than I'd ever seen. Now I was riding a lot more with the power meter, that's for sure, than I ever had done. But my data was suggesting that I was still getting better, and I could still get better. And that was really after maybe, I don't know, like 6 months of maybe 6 months of really good training. Maybe not even as much as that. Like maybe, I think there was maybe 3 months that when I knew the film was going ahead, I really buckled down and went all in. And that was probably only for 3 months or so. So it was starting to see like there's more to give. It's still there. I still feel like there's weight.
Was that surprising to you? I mean, did you think you were going to have to rely more on just kind of outsmarting these riders to get an advantage, or did you think it was possible? Did you think, I feel like I'm 36, but I can still get stronger and faster?
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, to be honest. During in the West Highland Way prep, it was a surprise, and then I was a bit more confident in it going into this year, and kind of ready to go. But I get really motivated by just seeing the improvement. I think that's part of the blessing of having this data, and having seeing power creep up, and seeing that I could actually, I genuinely lost 10 kilos.
Oh wow!
The year that I did the West Highland Way, like I went from about 75 kilograms to 65.
Wow!
And and I was like, oh my, because when you get older, you go, oh, it's hard. You just put weight on, and it just happens, and
right. And
I got to that point where I'm like, wow, I'm lean, and I feel strong, and I'm riding fast. So it was a bit of an eye opener. And then, this year it started to translate in terms of rides I was doing. I was setting PBs on climbs. I was setting PBs on set routes and trails. And that, again, I'm never going to be the best. I'm never going to beat Tom Pidcock, Tom, he's early 20s, but it's not his age that makes him better than me. He is just much better than me. He's one of the best, one of the best bike riders on the planet. And I'm not. I'm still good, and I've still got more to give, and I can still get better. So it's all about, like I say, enjoying that journey and enjoying the process and trying to be better than I was yesterday. And that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, try not to get too intimidated by the younger riders or the faster riders. It's and also I think give those riders credit as well. If you see them putting in an awesome ride, and if they're doing it when they're young, you've got to go, wow, that's amazing that you're doing that so young without the experience. You don't have the experience that I've got, and you're making you've got a wise head on young shoulders, you're making good decisions, you're disciplined, you're training hard, you've got self-belief. That's amazing, and that should be applauded. And then similarly, if it's an older rider who's, putting in the hard yards and learning new skills and still setting themselves challenges, go, well, that's also amazing. That should be celebrated. So if a rider's better than you, I like to kind of applaud them and respect them, I think that's one of the things that I take a lot from, is if I do have the respect of my peers, if I have the respect of the riders that I compete against, if they think I'm doing a good job and I'm riding well, I take a lot of from that as well. So
yeah, and that's so applicable to all of us, no matter what level we're at. To use that to motivate us and to always have a goal of getting better and learning and just having more fun on the bike as well. So one of the themes from the series is this idea of play. And when we're younger, play seems to come naturally. We love playing around, but when we get older, it seems like it's not really a big part of our lives. So why do you think play is so important?
It's a funny one because I don't really feel like I've ever stopped it. I used to have, but I also see how I'm very different to a lot of my friends, a lot of my peers. You know, a lot of the people that I grew up with have certainly stopped, and I just seem to have continued it. I think I used to have. I don't know if you guessed, but I'm a bit goofy, and I used to have this bit of a joke mantra that I used to share with my friends who were studying law degrees, and they were doing all these, you know, I guess all these career type things. And I would say that my main motivation was to have a lifestyle where I could just have fun. And I used to badge it as being, I used to just like to chill out and have fun, basically. So I would have I had a day job. I always had a day job, and I had a career, but it seemed that one of the main things that motivated me through life was that I just wanted to enjoy things, and fun is absolutely the core of that. So that's why I ride a BMX bike, I ride skate parks, I watch a lot of film, I listen to a lot of music. I think that's one thing that comes across in this film is I love riding my bike, but I also love the medium of film and making entertaining. The fact that I'm making entertaining films is about cycling is a total dream of mine too. But yeah, I'm maybe not the best person to talk to about this idea of play as an adult, because I don't think I've ever really stopped.
Yeah. Well, I mean, skateboarding is one of those things. I mean, there's lots of adults that do it, but I think for most adults, it's terrifying. It's like, why would I do that? Like, I could get hurt. And what's the point? I'm not trying to get anywhere on it. I'm just messing around. Like, who has time for that?
Yeah, I'm scared of skateboarding as well, though. I need a handlebar. I'd be more likely to be on a scooter, I think. But no, it's I mean, I think it comes down to what motivates you as well and what you enjoy doing, because there's tons of dangerous, or I guess things that you could do to play that I don't do. It just so happens that riding a bike is something that I'm really hooked on, and it's something I'm really passionate about. So. And I do use a bike for less playful things. You know, I do a road ride, and I love, you know, I train on the indoor trainer and all that kind of stuff. But I do continue to play, I guess. I think I'm just lucky that I have a sport that, I guess, rewards playing and learning. I guess I don't often, it maybe looks like playing a lot of the time, actually, but it's quite often it's pretty, not necessarily regimented, but if I do have like a clear goal, there's not that often that I'll go ride and do something without any end goal. So maybe I don't play that often. Maybe it's more practice. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like you go on a ride and you go with other people, right? And for me, you know, say we're going out and we're like, we're going to ride this 20-mile loop. And, you know, for me, I'm thinking about the end the whole time, right? I'm like, okay, we're going to ride up this hill and we're going to go down, and then, you know, we're going to go back to the start. And then I'll find myself riding in this group, and I see like one of the guys, you know, he found a route that he, you know, popped off of. And, you know, I'm like, wait, hold on. I was just going to go like straight over that, or I was going to avoid it completely because I'm thinking about the end. But, you know, some people are able to like see that and to really like be playful along the way. Like, does that sort of come naturally for you? Is that part of your training?
Yeah, I think I do. I would be that guy. I would be the guy wanting to do a wall ride, or wanting to do a jump, or wanting to like get some style on the jump or whatever, and take my hands off. But again, it's an interesting one. There's probably a goal to it, and it's the fact that I want it to look a certain way, or I want it to, you know, again, it's because I've seen riders that I respect, or I like doing similar things. So I guess it's that expression as well. So there's like a creative channel to that as well as just, I guess, I'm not just doing it just for the sake of it, you know. I'm doing it for, I guess there is like an end game in mind, you know.
Right. But yeah, but it sounds like you can do both, right? You can have that goal, but you can do it with style and do it your own way, sort of, and make it playful.
I certainly enjoy it. I guess it's how do you what's the definition of play? Because, if it is something that you just enjoy doing something, then, I'm playing when I'm doing an interval training session on the trainer, right. or whatever. It's I think I definitely do try to keep things fun for sure. It's whether it's a social side of things, it's stopping for a coffee and a laugh and a joke on a long road ride or whatever. But how do you define play? It's I guess it's that learning through play, isn't it? It's like there is an end goal, but you're having fun while you do it, and that's it. I remember getting asked by Andy, the director in the West Highland Way film. He was like, "You talk about having fun and like playing and this stuff, but it looks like you're training really hard and and it's actually really strict, which isn't like playing at all." Yeah. It's like I do enjoy it. Like I enjoy I enjoy the process. Like I say, I enjoy the journey. I enjoy ticking off the objectives and trying to get it done. I don't even often know what the end goal is. Like you say, there's a bit of an idea, but it's I guess that you find where you're going as you go through it.
Yeah. And like you said, it is biking after all. So even when we're serious at biking, it's not like we're sitting down to write a legal contract or, getting a quote on insurance. Like this is, if we're comparing it to other things that people do and spend their time at, pretty much the whole thing is play. If you look at it, compared to the bigger picture.
Yeah. But I was having a conversation. My girlfriend was talking to me about this recently, and she was saying that like when she finishes competing as a cyclist, she would she loves organising stuff. She really likes like planning trips and researching flights and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, that is like absolute hell to me. There's nothing. I would hate to do that, but she enjoys that. Again, enjoys that process. Enjoys like getting everything organised. Everything's being in line. And she was actually talking about this. Someone who works in the event series that she was competing in, and doing this job and them being brilliant at that job and just being like, it seems that they are into that. It's like, and it's not, again, they're not bluffing it. They're motivated. They want to do it. It's not easy, but it's just there's satisfaction in it. I think I would have to work really hard to try and do that, and I probably wouldn't take. It certainly wouldn't come that naturally to me. I wouldn't feel like I was good at it. But yeah, maybe need to get better at that. That can be my next goal. Yeah, be more organised.
Well, you mentioned it earlier that a number of folks said, "Hey, you're 36 years old, like you're still young." And on the flip side of that, these 18-year-olds that you're competing against, they're saying that guy's old, right? So old age is relative depending on what age you are and who you're talking to. But I'm curious, like, have you thought about what you're going to be doing on the bike at age 50 or even 70? I mean, an age that there's not a lot of people beyond that age that are going to be riding. So what do you see yourself doing when you're really the old guy out on the trail?
It's not really something that I've pondered at, to be honest, but just asking the question has really made me think about Sandy Wallace, who, so the whole series, every episode is dedicated in love and memory of Sandy Wallace. And he owned the bike shop and ran the club that I started with as a teenager. He passed away this year, not long after we'd filmed the series. But he was riding his bike all the way up till now. He was racing. He was doing Masters World Championships. When I started riding, he was racing mountain bikes mostly. And then he was doing long distance time trial racing in the UK. He was doing track racing. When the velodrome, we had our first indoor velodrome opened in Scotland, and he started doing track sprinting. And, in his late 60s and into his 70s, and it's like, that's what I'm going to be like, I'm going to be like, right. It just, you're getting older and you weren't as fast as you once were, but you just start moving the goalposts a little bit. Like, how do we, and he was the other thing he did a lot was he really supported other riders. He supported young riders. He sponsored young riders. He sponsored older riders as well, and he was always involved in running a club and helping. And I think I'd like to think I'll be riding my bike as long as I can. Exactly how that is, if it ends up being that I'll just be doing the club ride on a weekend, or taking people to going out and mellow trail ride or gravel ride or whatever, or maybe I'll be still looking to push myself in a skate park. Who knows? I literally can't tell you what I'll be doing, but I'm pretty certain that I'll be riding a bike. I'm pretty certain I'll still want to compete in some way, and I'm sure I'll be. As long as it puts a smile on my face, I'll still be doing it. And what's funny as well, it kind of stresses me out doing it as well. Like, I do get really nervous going into events and question why I'm doing it all the time. But I say it in the series a whole lot. I just love it. It's what I do. I think it doesn't define me, but it's a big part of my life. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. A few weeks ago, I went on a bike ride with a friend who I've known for a few years now, who's 86 years old, and he rides bikes. And I was like, you know what? Like, I would like to go on a ride with you, knowing that like we're going to go at kind of a slow pace and, it's going to be different from the rides I normally do. But yeah, I mean, one of the things I learned from him was just like confidence. Like, we're riding on the road, but he would just kind of put his hand out, like we're going through an intersection or whatever. He just put his hand out, like kind of stopping traffic, and he was going to go wherever he wanted to go. And I was like, wow, like I don't have that amount of confidence. And it made me realize that, I can learn so much. I mean, one, I'm motivated a lot by that, to think, wow, 86 years old, I would love to still be riding, but also realizing there's still so much that I need to learn about biking, and so much I can gain from that. Like, what do you see as the things that are still left for you to learn and experience on the bike?
When it comes to progressing as a rider, there's always something that you can work on. It's, like I say, cornering. I think that's part of the beauty of mountain biking as well. Is like the sport is progressing, and it's like you have to progress. You don't have to, but you can progress with it. So if it's riding bigger drops, bigger jumps, tighter corners, steeper slopes, there's always something there's always a new trail to ride as well. So you can, and that ticks so many other boxes as well, because you tick the idea of adventure. You can travel to new places, you can meet new people. It's there's so much. There's so many things that I take from cycling and from mountain biking. And I think that's it. I just always want to be progressing. It's almost setting many goals along the way, whether it's going to another country, riding a new trail, meeting new people, doing a different kind of race, going to an event. There's so much to be done, and I'm just enjoying the prospect that can happen. Moving forward, it's like a lot of the time it's how you frame it. How do you view something? What lens do you choose to look at it through? And you can look at it through a negative one or a positive one. And I do my best to look for positives. I'm same as anyone. Like I say, I'm very human. I have the negative lens on a lot of the time too. And I guess it's just about trying to catch yourself when you're using that and see if you can reframe what you're looking at or what you're setting about doing. Because sometimes I could look at it and say, I'm just doing the same old things, or I ride the same routes a lot of the time, or I ride the same, I'm doing the same kind of training. That kind of stuff can be quite repetitive, and you can look at it two ways, I guess. It's but I think what I've definitely looked at it in different ways over the last 20 years. I've definitely seen the negatives, and right now I feel like I'm seeing positives. I think, like I said, I've still got a lot ahead of me. I can still get better. I still really enjoy it. That hasn't changed, and I guess it's that's just something to be kind of grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, super inspiring. And yeah, to hear sort of your outlook on mountain biking, I think for all of us, we can connect with that no matter what age we are, or whether, our goal is to win races or just to have fun. Yeah, it's a really super, super helpful message. So thank you for taking the time to chat. Always a pleasure. And yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great. And I really appreciate coming on. And I think one thing that just to add, one thing to add is, it's great to inspire people, but I think one thing that there's a selfish side to this. I'm inspiring myself. I'm definitely, there's a lot of this I'm doing for me, and if I can share that, it makes it even better. Though it's like if I can share and inspire, I take a lot of inspiration from the community bike riders, from the other riders that I ride with and race against, and I think that's part of that shared community and that shared journey. So it's a pleasure. I wouldn't be doing these things if there wasn't people to do it with,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can watch the series Old Enough to Know Better on YouTube, and you can keep up with Rab on his website, and we'll have a link to that in the show notes. That's all we've got this week. We'll talk to you again next week.